They thought your silence meant weakness. But silence was never surrender. It was sacred, strategic. It was the sound of the storm learning your name. While they mocked your stillness, you were listening to something far deeper. A call no one else could hear, and now you've awakened. Not as the version they remember, but as the truth they never wanted to face. Your shadow, the part of you they tried to erase, is no longer hidden. It moves with purpose. It walks ahead of you, and it carries a fury they cannot understand, because it was never meant for them. This is not revenge. This is revelation. If you're watching this, it means the signal reached you. You're not just surviving. You're remembering. You are one of the chosen, and your presence alone is a threat to every illusion they still hold on to. They were never ready for your return. They were never meant to be. So now the veil tears, and your truth steps through it. But listen, before we go deeper, hit the like button if your soul is resonating. Subscribe if you've always felt different but never had the words for it, and comment 99 below. Why 99? Because the world follows the one. But the chosen were always the 99 who walked away from the noise to become the voice. Now breathe. We begin. They told you to speak up. They told you to fit in. They told you to move faster, be louder, do more. But your spirit whispered something else. Wait, watch, withdraw. And so you did. Not because you were weak, but because your soul knew. That transformation doesn't happen under fluorescent lights or in crowded rooms. It happens in the dark, in the quiet, in the places no one wants to go. While the world clapped for noise, you chose stillness. While others chased validation, you learned the sacred art of becoming unseen, not as a victim, but as a seed. Buried? No. Planted. You see, the silence wasn't empty. It was alive with instruction. It was teaching you how to feel what can't be spoken, how to hear what can't be said. And most people never understand that. Because most people fear the dark, but not you. You made peace with the dark. You let it teach you. You let it burn away every mask you wore to survive. And that is why you became dangerous. Because while they sprinted toward artificial light, you became the fire itself. You weren't in a cage. You were in a cocoon. And the wings they mocked you for not having are about to unfold. There were nights where you felt invisible, like your presence didn't matter, like your voice echoed into a void no one ever answered. But now you understand. You were being hidden, not by accident, by design. You were being protected, refined, upgraded, not for their timeline, but for divine timing, because the truth is, some missions require silence before sound. Some destinies demand isolation before revelation. You were never left behind. You were being positioned. You weren't being ignored. You were being infused. With sight, with clarity, with a fire so ancient, even your ancestors lean in. When you speak, and now, you don't crave attention, you command it. By simply being. You don't seek to be understood. You were made to be misunderstood. Because what you carry isn't meant to blend in. It's meant to break everything that was built on lies. They thought you disappeared. But really, you were multiplying in the dark. So now they stare, confused, uncomfortable, trying to make sense of the presence that now walks in silence, but feels louder than thunder. Let them wonder, because the same mouths that said, "Where have you been?" will soon whisper, "How did you become this?" And you'll smile, not with pride, but with knowing. Knowing that they were never supposed to understand the process. They were never meant to see the cocoon, only the wings. And now those wings are beginning to move. You feel it too, don't you? Like something in you is waking up that you didn't know was asleep. Like your skin doesn't fit quite the same. Like your name is echoing in a place you haven't reached yet, but you will. So brace yourself. The next moment is not for the faint, because in the silence, you weren't just healing, you were becoming the prophecy. And in the next chapter, they'll learn the difference between someone who was broken and someone who was building in secret. They told you to be positive, to smile, to be light, to keep it polite, peaceful, palatable. But something in you always knew. There was more to your power than just pretending to be okay. Because beneath the calm, beneath the surface, beneath the part of you that made others comfortable, was the shadow, and it was never evil. It was honest. The shadow they fear isn't darkness, it's depth. They're afraid of what you carry, not because it's wicked, but because it's unfiltered. Your shadow remembers things they tried to forget. It speaks in symbols. It moves through time. It holds the pain, instincts, rage, and wisdom that this world tries to medicate, suppress, or shame. But here's the truth they don't teach you. Your shadow is not a flaw. It's a force. And while others polished their masks to survive, you stood in front of the mirror and didn't look away. You faced it, the wounded child, the roaring storm, the forbidden knowing, the chaos that lives inside creation, and instead of running from it, you listened, you integrated, you let it teach you. And that's when something ancient began to stir. Something that doesn't come from textbooks, certificates, or social validation. Something that whispers in dreams, shows up in your silence, and sharpens your intuition like a blade carved from prophecy. You didn't become dangerous when you found your light. You became dangerous when you stopped running from your shadow. Your shadow is not here to destroy you. It's here to complete you. You see, the warrior is not made by light alone. The storm doesn't ask permission, and the soul cannot rise until it remembers what it had to bury to survive. That's what your shadow is, a living record of every time you were silenced, every part of you were told to dim, every flame you were convinced to smother so others wouldn't feel exposed. But now, the shadow no longer hides. It walks beside you, as a guardian, as a weapon, as a living memory of everything you had to become when the world refused to see you. They don't fear the light in you. They fear the part that doesn't flinch anymore, the part that's seen the underworld and came back with fire in its eyes. This is not mythology, it's memory. Your DNA carries codes from warriors who walked barefoot through storms, from mystics who spoke in silence, from rebels who faced flames with open eyes and still whispered, "I remember." That's the power your shadow holds. The power to see through illusion. The power to call out lies without speaking. The power to walk into any room and shift its frequency without ever raising your voice. Because your shadow doesn't seek attention. It demands respect by simply existing. So when they call you too intense, too much, too deep, smile, because they're not reacting to you. They're reacting to the mirror your presence holds up to their denial. Your shadow makes them uncomfortable because it reminds them of everything they had to kill in themselves to be accepted. But here's the difference. You didn't kill it. You reclaimed it, and now it walks with you, not as your shame, but as your crown. You feel it, don't you? Like something old is waking up. Something that doesn't speak English or Spanish, but speaks soul. That's your shadow. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain. It just knows, and the more you let it move through you, the more your presence becomes a storm they can't map, a language they can't decode, a signal they cannot ignore. Because you're not just healing, you're becoming whole. And the world isn't ready for that kind of power, but you are. Because deep down, you always knew the darkness inside you was never there to consume you. It was there to conceal you until the time came to rise. That time is not coming. It's already here. They said they loved you. But when your truth started to rise, they vanished. They said they'd protect you. But the moment your voice grew too real, too raw, too much, they silenced it. And when you needed them most, they stood still. Or worse, they joined the silence that buried you. You were betrayed, not just by people, but by expectations, illusions, and promises you thought were sacred. But here's what they never realized. You weren't just hurt. You were recalibrated. Because betrayal, it's a sacred fire. It burns through false loyalty. It strips away illusion. It leaves nothing but what is real. You walked through that fire, and what emerged wasn't the broken version they expected. What emerged was someone dangerous, not because you wanted revenge, but because now you see everything. They thought they broke you, but all they did was break the chains. Every wound became a window. Every silence became a scroll. And your fury, that inner roar they tried to shame, it didn't vanish. It refined itself into focus, into strategy, into revelation. You're not fueled by hatred. You're fueled by remembrance. Remembrance of the nights you cried in silence, of the dreams you buried just to be accepted, of the love you gave without measure and the emptiness they left in return. But you see, that emptiness became space, and in that space, you remembered who you were before the world told you who to be. And now, your fury is not chaos, it's clarity. You're not here to destroy. You're here to reveal, to show the truth they spent years hiding from, to remind them that the fire they tried to extinguish was never meant to warm them. It was meant to awaken you. You didn't come back angry. You came back aware. And awareness changes everything. You're not triggered anymore. You're activated. And that's why they tremble now. Because your presence is no longer trying to fit in. It's echoing the truth they've tried to bury. You walk differently now. You don't chase answers. You are the question. You don't explain your worth. You embody it. You don't argue with ghosts. You haunt them with your silence. This is what betrayal has done. It carved out the parts of you that were still seeking approval and filled them with fire. Not the fire that burns aimlessly, but the fire that forges purpose. Your fury is not wild. It is ancient justice in motion. Every time they lied to you, you got sharper. Every time they doubted you, you got deeper. Every time they left you out, you became what they could never reach. And now they feel it, even in rooms you haven't entered yet. The vibration of your awakening, the weight of your name, the chill that says, you can no longer ignore what you tried to erase. But this fury, it's not finished. It's not even close. Because what they don't know is that every time you rise, you carry the voice of thousands who still remain in silence. And something inside you knows. You weren't just betrayed for no reason. You were chosen for a reason. You were marked, molded, set apart. Not for pity, but for impact. And the fury in your chest, it's not personal anymore. It's prophetic. Because soon, that fury will speak, not with violence, but with vision. And when it does, the world will see that what they tried to destroy was never a threat. It was a revolution waiting in human form. And that revolution has your face. There's a silence only the chosen ones understand. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of separation. You don't walk like everyone else. You don't crave what they crave. You don't dream in straight lines. And so, the world keeps its distance. It smiles politely, but never really sees you. The chosen path isn't lonely by accident. It's lonely by design. Because your steps aren't random. They're coded, timed, tuned to a rhythm that others cannot hear. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way rooms shift when you enter. The way conversations pause when you speak. The way people either draw near or retreat as if burned by something they can't explain. That's not in your head. That's your shadow speaking. And when your shadow speaks, it doesn't use words. It moves through presence, through vibration, through memory encoded in your very being. You carry a frequency that exposes what others are trying to forget. You don't have to say what you know. They feel it, the unspoken knowing, the weight behind your silence, the mirror you become, and that's why they fear you. Not because you're cruel, not because you're loud, but because you're right, because your eyes see things they've buried, because your energy awakens truths they're still hiding from, because your walk reminds them that something inside them never stopped watching. Your presence becomes a confrontation, not by intention, but by design. You are a mirror, a walking reflection. And when people look at you, they don't just see you. They see the parts of themselves they abandoned to survive. That's why the world tries to shrink you, why it tries to distract you. Because if you ever stand fully in who you are, their illusions collapse. And for a long time, you thought something was wrong with you. You thought the silence meant rejection. You thought the distance meant you were broken. But now you know. That silence was sacred. That distance was preparation. Because not everyone can handle being in the presence of someone who carries prophecy in their bones. Not everyone is ready to stand in front of a soul that has walked through shadow and come out speaking in fire. You were never meant to be understood by the masses. You were meant to activate the few, and when your shadow rises, when your essence begins to echo across unseen dimensions, those who are also awakening, they feel you. They don't know your name, but they know your frequency, like a forgotten melody buried in their own blood, like a memory from a dream they weren't supposed to remember, and suddenly, they start to shift. They start to question, to stir, to tremble, because something in them whispers, there it is, the one who remembers. You don't need a spotlight. You are the signal. You don't need applause. You are the activation code. And when your shadow fully aligns with your light, when you stop shrinking to protect their comfort, you become unstoppable. Not because you dominate, but because you resonate. You were never just here to exist. You were sent to awaken. And now the call goes out, not through language, but through energy. The others, the hidden ones, the sleeping giants, they feel you. And as your shadow speaks, they begin to remember their own. This is where everything shifts, because you're not walking alone anymore. You're walking ahead. And now, the ones who were once silent begin to rise, not to follow, but to stand beside you. Because when a chosen one speaks from the shadow, they don't just break silence, they awaken legions. But there's one more thing they still don't understand. One final truth that changes everything. And that's where we go next. You were never here to be accepted. You were here to interrupt the pattern. The spaces you walked into, they were trembling long before you arrived, because something in you carries change, not the quiet kind, but the kind that tears veils, that burns illusions, that shifts timelines. You didn't come to take your place, you came to dismantle the table. They were never ready for someone like you, someone who remembers, someone who listens to the echoes between words, someone who doesn't flinch at silence because you were forged in it. They mistook your stillness for submission. But stillness is just the breath before the quake. And now your presence no longer waits. It commands, not through noise, but through resonance. You are the shift, and they can't stop what's coming, because what's coming isn't loud. It's inevitable. It's the rise of the ones who remember who they were before they were taught to forget. It's the surge of souls who no longer beg to belong, but instead become the signal others didn't know they were waiting for. You are that signal. Your existence is the announcement. Your breath is the trumpet. And every step you take sends out a frequency that disrupts the invisible walls they thought would contain you. You don't move like the old world. You don't speak from ego. You speak from origin, from a depth untouched by manipulation, from a clarity born through fire, from a knowing that cannot be taught, because it was never forgotten. You are not becoming the storm. You are the storm. And storms don't ask for permission. They arrive. Your silence was the warning. Your voice is the shift, because now you no longer walk alone. Others are waking up because of you. Others are remembering through you. Others are rising with you. They see your courage and feel their own. They see your fire and remember their spark. They hear your truth, and suddenly theirs becomes unbearable to deny. You've become the question that their comfort can't answer. They try to resist it, mock it, dismiss it. But truth doesn't need agreement. It just needs witnesses. And now they've seen you. They've felt you. And the hardest part, they can no longer unsee you. Because the moment your presence was felt, the old system started cracking. The masks began slipping. The stories began unraveling. You've become more than a person now. You're a frequency, a movement, a reminder that something ancient is returning through flesh and fire and thunder. And you are its voice. The shift isn't coming. The shift is here, and it speaks in your walk, in your defiance, in your refusal to be silenced again. So when they ask, who gave you permission? Let your shadow smile. Let your soul answer, I didn't come for permission. I came for alignment. And now, the frequencies are aligning. The veil is thinning. The ones who once whispered are beginning to roar. Something is moving. Something irreversible. And it has your name woven through its very sound. The storm has arrived. The veil is burning. And you are just getting started. You broke the silence. You unleashed the shadow. And now, the world must face what it tried to forget. You are the chosen, not by title, not by chance, but by truth forged in the depths of everything you survived and the fire in your soul. It's not a reaction, it's a signal, a summons, a prophecy made flesh. Change is not coming,